A-Train Sports Talk Podcast. As I said, the number one podcast in the state of Kansas. Going city to city, state to state, coast to coast. And I'm literally going coast to coast on this one. This is one of those journeys you'd rather fly than drive. But being a kid, me and my parents, we drove everywhere. So I have no problem driving. And right now I'm behind the wheels of a locomotive, picking up a head of steam, going to the state of Entrapment. Y'all know that as the state of enchantment. It's called New Mexico. This guy I'm bringing on board is no stranger. He's been on before. I'm not even going to introduce him. I'm just going to present him as the voice of Western New Mexico, my good friend and brother from another mother, Ed Nunez. Ed.
Anthony, thanks for having me on. It's always good to be on the A-Train, man. And you're right about New Mexico, the land of entrapment. I just heard some other people that had moved away and swore they're never coming back, moved back. And so you're right about that. It is the land of entrapment, and I'll spend my remaining years right here in the state of New Mexico.
All righty. Well, we've had a lot of dialogue, and we've had some technical difficulties we've had to fight through, but it's so good to have you on a Saturday. Let me ask you this question, because we talked about this earlier. How's the weather out there?
It hasn't been as hot as this summer as it had been, past summers. We get over 100, 101, 102, but never like 105 with, successive days. My wife and I were in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago to watch Caitlin Clark. Walked out at 2 in the afternoon, about 3:34 in the afternoon. It's 112 degrees. I have to walk to the car. It's 180 in the car. I'm dehydrated. So I was in Las Vegas, as I mentioned to you, for the Mountain West Conference Football Media Days. It's 117 in Las Vegas about 2 weeks ago. We went outside one day and walked, the Circle Mall, and that was it. Never went out. Then we did a live show from down at the pool at Circa. We did a live show inside a cabana. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, I went through about 8 bottles of water, and it wasn't enough. And we just stayed inside Wednesday and Thursday until we had to go to the airport. So, we got some good rain Wednesday and last night, and rain's always good here. It's a desert here, man. So the rain has helped my lawn and, helped out my wife's plants. So this summer hasn't been as hot as it normally has, and, for that we're grateful. I've got central cooling inside the house, so I can't complain. This makes my wife a little bit cold. She has to get a sweater. We battle about that once in a while. Men and women are 8 degrees temperature-wise different. So, but man, I can't complain. It's been a moderately nice summer here.
That's why they say men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
It's true. It's true, man. It's true.
I understand. You mentioned going to watch Caitlin Clark, and I know we're going to get into some football talk, but what was that atmosphere like at that All-Star game, and what was the interaction like? Because, all eyes were on these two people, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese.
We actually saw her play against the Phoenix Sun, against Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi, regular season game. But I'll tell you, they packed it. It was a sold-out arena. They sold it out. Clark, my wife loves Caitlin Clark. She really likes her. And so, yeah, it was a great atmosphere. Indiana came back to win. They were down, and I thought they were going to lose. Phoenix has the veteran players. In Indiana, I think Caitlin Clark has gotten better through the season. Her team wasn't great. Aaliyah Boston and her are a nice combination. And one thing about Clark, now people have been on her about her turnovers, but her passing and the way she sees the floor is amazing. She sets you up with great scoring passes. If you double her, she'll find the open man. And her 3-point shooting's a threat. You have to stretch to guard her. Not great quickness, but great shot fakes. So a good pass to you. And the minute she does, her eyes are wide open, seeing the floor. She'll get you a pass right. All you got to do is catch and shoot. So I think her initially, she struggled a little bit. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There's players in the WNBA that, yes, they felt like, hey, she's getting all the attention. So you know how that is. When she went out there on the court, they're going to try and guard her, hedge hard and double team her, make her go to if she goes to the basket, They're going to clobber her, man, right? And, she's gotten better about it because you're going to have to play through that. You can't fight everybody, but you have to get up off the deck and let them know that's not going to bother me. Go hit the free throws. And I thought that game, that day, that afternoon was a great atmosphere. Indiana came back. They were down by 10. They came back and won. And my wife was happy, and great atmosphere over there in Phoenix.
All right, then. Well, good to hear that. And I'm pretty sure she gained the respect of one Diana Taurasi, because Diana Taurasi, she has some things to say prior to Caitlin Clark entering the league. So I'm pretty sure they had some good interaction and shared a good laugh or two during the game as well, too.
I think once a rookie comes in, and I've seen it before. I played a lot of ball with younger guys, and we had to show them, right? We tried, to show them where we thought their place would be. But once they proved they belonged out there, you respect that player, and I think they do. I think initially there's Brittany Griner said that too, that she was going to have to learn a lot of lessons because these ladies make it. That's their living. Well, it's Clark's living too, and I think she's proven that she belongs there. And so I think initially people wanted to really go at her hard. They still do, but she's earned their respect. She has, and she's only going to get better. And she's helped the league. If her and Angel Reese have really, driven up ratings, have gotten them better contracts. You can't deny it. They can deny it all they want to, but we know what we see. So I think, again, she's played very well. They're breaking now for the Olympics. They won't be back for about another month. But I think the WNBA, a league that nobody really paid attention to, they drew 3.4 million viewers for the All-Star game, a record that hadn't been done before. So I think we have to look like what Chris Berman always says on ESPN. Look inside the numbers. Look at those numbers right there.
Right. Look inside the numbers. The numbers do not lie. I always laugh at people when they say, "I don't watch that that ain't real basketball. I don't watch that." I'm like, well, looking at these numbers, somebody's lying. Either you lying or the numbers are inflated because somebody's watching. Viewership, and theoretically, it all started in the college game. When you look at the past two NCAA championship basketball games, men and women, you've seen astronomical rise in the viewership on the women's side. So much to the point to where this past season's finals, the women had more viewership than the men. Hello?
No, they did, and that would surprise you. That would really surprise you because that had never happened before. And I was where was I at? My brother and I were at Final Four in Phoenix, and we were noticing that there was all kinds of TVs where we were at watching, but the women's final four was drawing a lot of attention. So I think they've got a good tailwind right behind them. They've got a good wind behind them as far as Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and new players coming into the WNBA. Because before, let's say this too, though. Let's be fair. Cynthia Cooper's, Rebecca Lobos, Lisa Leslie's, Diana Taurasi's, Cheryl Swoops, Cheryl Miller. These were good players. They were good players. But not a lot of people paid attention to that league. And now all of a sudden, my wife doesn't miss a game if it's on TV. She's recording it. We watched the All-Star game last Saturday. So this league is garnering new attention. And with that, what does that mean? New contracts, new money, better accommodations. It's really been good for the WNBA.
All right. Tell you what we're going to do right here. We're going to shift gears, but we're going to shift gears after we take this break right here, because there are we know what inflation is, right? And I'm gonna just go ahead and try my best to give it to you like this. Inflation, and we're going to, well, I tell you what, I'm gonna give you the meaning of inflation on the other side of this break. That's what I'm going to do, because I'm going somewhere with that. And I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with this too as well. But we're not going to let that cat out the bag just yet. If y'all want to know what I'm talking about, you're going to have to come back on the other side of this break, because we're going to talk about inflation, how it is affecting the game that we love. So don't you dare go nowhere. The train is just now building up ahead of steam. on a Saturday afternoon here in the air capital city of Wichita, Kansas, and also in the land of enchantment in the state of New Mexico. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the A-Train Sports Talk Podcast, the state's #1 podcast to give young student athletes a voice. But we also, every now and then, go and pick up passengers, which is why I always say city to city, state to state, coast to coast, because you never know who this train is going to pick up. And my first segment, I had Ed Nunez on the train ride, and I actually got him handcuffed. He can't go nowhere until I release him. He can't even pay enough bail money to get off this train. And the people are cheering for that. So, Ed, how's it going, my friend? For the second.
It's good, man. Always good to be on with you, Anthony. I always appreciate you having me on as a guest.
I am elated to have you on, even with our technical issues. We're making things work. Like they say in life, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. So we squeezing this lemon for all that it is worth. So I told the people before we went to break that we were going to talk about inflation and how it is affecting the game that we love. I know people say, what does inflation has to do with sports? Well, if they hang tight, I am going to actually tell them because, believe it or not, some of my information is artificial intelligently sponsored, if I could say that as a word. I never thought I would be typing in on my phone to figure out some information, but man, that artificial intelligence, it spits out some info. And I've had to use go ahead.
It does, and some of it's scary. Some of it, because you're right, it does, and there's been some things already that I've watched and I know weren't said, but they look like they were said. By Darvin Ham talking about LeBron, and LeBron saying something about D'Angelo Russell, which wasn't said, but it looks like they were. So that's just 2 samples. So this AI stuff is pretty crazy. Right.
So, looking at inflation. Inflation is a complex economic concept, but I'll break it down simply. Inflation is a sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services. I guess that's how you define quarterbacks, as a good and as a service, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In an economy over a period of time, Tom Brady defied time. It's measured as an annual percentage increase. We've seen that at the quarterback position in the Consumer Price Index, which tracks the average price of a basket of goods and services. So one thing that happens is prices rise. We've seen that at the quarterback position. Purchasing power decreases. The devaluation of the running back. Money loses value. Once again, the running back. So we've seen the inflated prices of quarterbacks here recently. And what I want to bring up here, and we're going to look at this right now in this conversation, because inflation has affected the game that we love called football. Seems like every year they give a quarterback a contract and he has reset the market value. It's not about how many rings he's won. It's not about his success in the playoffs. It's about those gaudy numbers that he has put up during the regular season, which hasn't always translated to the playoffs outside of a Joe Burrow here recently. So here are the top quarterbacks based on salary. Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals, 5 years, $275 million with an average salary of $55 million. Guaranteed $219.01 million. Trevor Lawrence, we know he haven't had no playoff success. Jacksonville Jaguars, contract 5 years, $275 million, average salary $55 million, $200 million guaranteed. Jared Goff, Detroit Lions. And let me put my disclaimer, this is also prior to the contracts that Tua and Jordan Love just recently signed. But Jared Goff, Detroit Lions, contract 4 years, $212 million, average salary $53 million, guarantees $170.61 million. Justin Herbert, you know, he plays in that same division with that other guy. You know, they got an arrow on the side there. You know, he let's say that they would be the Utah Jazz and the Kansas City Chiefs would be the Chicago Bulls, all right?
Yeah, might as well be, right?
Right.
Yeah, with the Chiefs' dominance in that division the last couple of years.
5-year contract, $262.5 million, average salary $52.5 million, guaranteed $218.73 million. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens, 5-year, $260 million, average salary $52 million, guaranteed $185 million. Jalen Hurts, we're familiar with that guy. We play him twice a year. The tush push.
Man, that was they made a living with that play all year long.
His contract. I wonder if his contract has anything to do with that tush push too. Anyway, 5 years, $255 million, average salary $51 million, guarantees $179.39 million. And let me just put a plug in for Jalen Hurts, because if you look at his business team, I believe they're all women, and they're all women of color.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Something that is unheard of.
I've never heard of it. Yeah, that's a great thing, I think.
You got Kyler Murray coming in next, Arizona Cardinals, 5 years, $230.5 million, average salary $46.1 million, guarantees $159.79 million. Then here is something, unless he comes back and recreates himself, the Cleveland Browns may wish they hadn't did this. Deshaun Watson, contract 5 years, $230 million. I believe this is what got the whole ball rolling with these inflated contracts. Average salary $46 million, guarantees $230 million. Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, 6 years, $258.3 million. Average salary $43 million, guarantees $150 million. And then there's Kirk Cousins, Atlanta Falcons, 4 years, $180. Heck, I've take the 10th on the list contract, $180 million, $45 million average, and guarantees $100 million. That is how inflation has affected the game of football that we love. Now, those are the top 10 salaries. Here's why this does not add up to me, because looking at the top 10 quarterbacks, you have Patrick Mahomes. His stats, 2023 stats was 4,183 yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Considered one of the best quarterbacks. Coming in number 2 was Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, 4,102 yards. The salaries and the quarterback ratings does not add up. Ed, what can you make of this?
Well, you think about what you just said. You listed all the quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott was the runner-up as the MVP to Lamar Jackson last year. Lamar Jackson is not, you mentioned, not had great playoff success. The only person on that list that you mentioned, Burrow's won a couple of playoff games. Josh Allen, who one NFL executive called overrated the other day. Josh Allen, has won a couple of playoff games. It's generated some real excitement there in Buffalo. But some of the other guys, Deshaun Watson, Herbert, what does he want? Goff, got to a Super Bowl. Kyler Murray's, all good quarterbacks. But we have a situation, and I know what you're getting at. In Dallas, where a quarterback is 71-43 as a starter, he's 2-5 in the playoffs, and everybody seems to want to just concentrate on that playoff record. Look, against Green Bay last year, let's face it, I was hoping, they were heavily favored going into the game. Dallas was, and Green Bay came out with a great scheme, and really, they drove the ball down the field on the opening drive, clock-consuming drive, and really shoved it down Dallas's throat defensively. Once Liv went out at linebacker, Dallas wasn't physical at that position, and I think Green Bay took advantage of it. I thought defensively they took advantage of they were very aggressive in their schemes on Dallas's routes. Intercepting Dak Prescott twice. So a lot of Dallas fans are tired of not winning in the playoffs. But you just think about the quarterbacks you just mentioned. So what are you going to do if you're Dallas? Now, you mentioned inflation. Jerry Jones alluded to that the other day. There's things that he wants but can't afford. And remember, this is a guy that one time they cut up his credit cards years ago before he was even the Dallas Cowboys owner. Because he wasn't paying his bills, they snipped his credit cards. So, but he built the empire that he built, right? Now, revenue sharing in the league, he had a lot of great ideas. I've always said as a businessman, he's one of the best in the league. As a general manager, not so much. But he's created wealth for the Dallas Cowboys. He's created wealth for the league. There's no disputing that. So when he's saying that I might not be able to afford it, you're wondering, wait a minute, man, this guy's a billionaire 10 times over, right? Now, they've done a good job of managing the salary cap, Anthony. They've been competitive. Dak Prescott has not had a losing season as the starting quarterback. So I think it's kind of amazing to me when people are saying, move on, let's just move on. So my question is, I always ask, move on to who? We know it's not Trey Lance or Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush, we mentioned, is a solid backup. They may stop gap and say, okay, let's let him start. We'll see what we can do down the line. The eyes are on Trey Lance this camp. They gave up a fourth-round pick for him. He was picked fourth in the overall draft. People want to see what he can do. Now, we saw snippets yesterday, and he threw a pick. The sideline throw that I saw was not good. Didn't drive the ball. But people want to, can he even beat out Cooper Rush? Because there were some Dallas beat writers that said they weren't even sure he could beat out Cooper Rush, who, as you mentioned, Anthony, is a solid backup. So I think there's a lot of questions surrounding the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. And it's going to loom large every day when he goes to the podium. The first 5 questions are, is there any progress in your contract negotiations? The second question is, are you going to sign with Dallas? Third question is all about the contract. It's like a cloud looming over his head. But he's going to play it out. And you mentioned, think about the quarterbacks you mentioned and the money they're getting. So if anybody thinks that Dak Prescott, if he's a free agent, won't get paid the way some of those quarterbacks did, he will. I get Tua Tagovailoa is getting paid a lot of money, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Dak Prescott will get paid one way or the other. That's for sure. If it's not by the Dallas Cowboys, the Las Vegas Raiders are looking for a quarterback. That could definitely be a landing spot for him. New England Patriots, are they really sold on Jacoby Brissett? I don't know. Someone's going to need a quarterback that has won 73 regular season games. I guarantee it.
Man, these are definitely unsettling times if you are a Cowboy fan, because when you look at this whole quarterback situation as it is, and you look at especially Dallas and talking about it's time to move on. It's kind of like seeing that meme before we was calling them memes. It was an infomercial. It had a man in a casket dressed up in a suit, and it says, before you get dressed, make sure you know where you're going. Cowboy fans, before you decide to move on, you better make sure you have a plan. And I'm pretty sure I would get no disagreement from one Ed Nunez. Am I right?
Think about what you said. The plan when Troy Aikman retired, what was the plan? We saw Clint Sterner, Chad Hutchinson, Anthony Wright. We saw Vinny Testaverde, Drew Bledsoe,
Quincy Carter. Don't you keep forgetting that name, Quincy Carter? We had to suffer with that.
Yeah, he actually had a winning season, went to the playoffs. But you remember another guy that you may forget, Randall Cunningham, was quarterback Dallas for a season, and there were stopgaps there wasn't one guy. I remember Parcells saying about Chad Hutchinson during training camp. Well, he said it wasn't awful when he watched Hutchinson. He never developed into a starter. They had Drew Henson from Michigan, who everybody thought was going to be. They let him play one half, and that they pulled him against Baltimore. And again, remember, you've got to get the NFL is a whole different game. Dak Prescott is a proven winner as far as I understand he hasn't won the playoffs, but just like you just said, you have to know what you're going to be dressed in before you go anywhere. So everyone to say, we've seen a lot of people say, move on. Okay, my question always is, move on to what? Now we both know Rush is a very good backup, and we're not even sure Lance can jump him to be number 2, much less be the starter. There's a lot of questions around the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones knows it, but remember, we don't know what he's planning. He might indeed have – they've managed the salary cap well for the last 15, 20 years, right? They've been able to keep the players they needed to keep. Yes, they lost some talent, but they've been able to keep the star players around. They've done a good job of that. So I've got to think they've got a plan here, because you can't just let these guys walk. Like you said, you have to know what you're going to be. They've been competitive. You have to know what you're going to be dressed in before you just say, well, we're getting rid of that guy. So what's your plan behind center? You mentioned all those quarterbacks, and many of them are not better than Dak Prescott. They're not. So he'll either get paid by the Dallas Cowboys, or he'll be a free agent and he'll break the bank next year.
Right.
Temporarily be the highest paid player ever in football until somebody else is the highest paid player in football. But he'll get his money one way or the other. You can best believe that.
Right. The crazy thing, because Josh Allen was on that list, and if I could preface it like this, the most damning thing I heard with Josh Allen was, I was in the chat room, and somebody put it out like this. They said, Josh Allen is a white Dak Prescott. All I could say was, ouch. Did they really just go there? But to his defense, Josh Allen would be the equivalent of, say, John Stockton, Moses Malone, Patrick Mahomes would be the equivalent of Michael Jordan. It's not Josh Allen's fault that he keeps running up against Patrick Mahomes and can't get over that hump. It may take Patrick Mahomes to sit out for 2 years and come back unless someone else win the time that he's gone. I mean, we know that's not going to happen because football don't work that way. But, for someone to say that about Josh Allen, lets you know that the quarterback position is really taken seriously in the NFL. And the NFL has basically set the quarterback position up to be the most important position now on the field, because the running back has been devalued. It's all about the quarterback. You look at the rule changes. You can't hit the quarterback. You can't sneeze on the quarterback. You can't cough on the quarterback. So now it's all about the quarterback, whether you like the quarterback or whether you don't like the quarterback. This is what we're stuck with. And now, listen to a radio show yesterday, and you may agree with this. It's not about the rings now. You could tell that by looking at the guys that were in that top 10 on salaries. It's not about the ring. It's about what you could possibly do for us, as opposed to what have you done for me lately. Would you agree?
I still say, when you and I are fans of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I saw them win all 5 of their Super Bowls. When I was a fan in 1970, I remember when they beat Miami in 1972. It was the first Super Bowl they won. I've seen them win all 5. They established a winning tradition. We mentioned under Tom Landry, 20 straight winning seasons. They were expected to win. Almost boring to watch the games at Texas Stadium. The fans expected them to win. They did. They were spoiled, right? Jerry Jones comes in. They go 1-15. Then they trade Herschel Walker and the great train robbery. And it's we're on the A train, but that trade was the great train robbery. They robbed Minnesota. They did. So that gives them 3 Super Bowl wins, and everybody's euphoric, including me. I'm like, man, this is something they're going to ride for a couple of years. Then he fires Jimmy and hires Barry, and ever since then, it's been downhill. So Dallas fans, look at Danny White. Okay, so Danny White goes to 3 straight NFC championships. He's forgotten about, right? Because he didn't win. He didn't win one, but that guy was an exceptional quarterback. Andy Don Meredith gets him to 2 NFL championships against Green Bay in that Ice Bowl. If he wins that Ice Bowl and goes on to win the Super Bowl, Dandy might be thought of a little bit differently in NFL history. He really might be. So it's about winning still for the Dallas Cowboy fans, and there's a lot of young fans that never saw them win anything, right? But you and I have seen them win. They're expected still to win. They want to win championships. Jones wants to win championships. He definitely does. Remember, it's been a competitive team. It's not as if they've been 5-12 for 3 or 4 straight seasons. We suffered with that under Dave Campo. A couple of 5-11 seasons. They weren't even competitive. They were terrible. They've been a good team, but when it comes down to the playoffs, they've been beaten by better teams. I don't think there's any question about that. Going into this season, they lost a lot. They lost Lawrence Armstrong. They lost Tyler Biadasz, Tyron Smith. They've lost a lot of depth. They really have. But they've got some guys that overshot. The linebacker last year who's out with an ACL, we've not seen him. They signed the linebacker from San Diego. He might help. You know, on the offensive line, they've got Guyton, the kid from Oklahoma. He's unproven. You know, so the kid they drafted in the 3rd round, they want him to play center. I can't remember his name, but he's unproven on the offensive line. They've got some questions there. You know, they've got some Zeke Elliott's back. But I don't think the cupboard is totally bare. They've got to sign CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup is gone. Yeah, right. So I think Justin Tolbert, I think that kid's going to take a leap. The wide receiver, it's his 3rd year. He should be ready to go. Ferguson, the tight end, is one of the best in the league. I think he's ready to make a leap. I don't think the cupboard is bare, but there's some guys that they've got. Sam Williams, the defensive end. He's got to make a jump, right? Because Lawrence Armstrong was a good defensive situational rotational player, you know. So they've got some players there. Diggs is coming back off an ACL. You know, they'll need him. I don't think it's all lost, and that they're going to go 2-12 or 2-16 or anything like that. Not yet. They can win some games, but there's some questions though. They did lose some depth, and that depth that they lost is important. So we'll have to see how the season plays out. But I'm going to tell you this: I still think that they can have a decent season.
Yeah, the one thing I know we did lose, and I'm not going to keep you on much longer because I have another guest coming up, but we lost our defensive coordinator, and I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on that defense because I think a lot is going to really hinge on the defensive play, and it's going to all still come back to contract. If we don't get Micah Parsons signed, Cowboy Nation, you may as well get ready to say goodbye, and he's going to find his defensive coordinator. I can guarantee. Because right now, from what I'm hearing, the players don't have an issue playing for Mike McCarthy. That's what I'm hearing. But Zimmer seems like he is not making too many friends in the locker room on the defensive side of the ball, and that is scary.
He was there before. It was years ago. Dan Quinn, let's face it, Dan Quinn did a great job. He did. But that playoff loss to Green Bay, their defense was atrocious that day. The offense didn't play well either. But you got receivers running all over the place. Remember, though, when they lost Liv at linebacker, that hurt them. That did. There was no physicality at linebacker. Clark's too small. They've got smallish linebackers. That's why this Overshawn kid, I'm kind of anxious to see what he brings. Remember, he didn't play last year because he tore his ACL. So I think there's some guys there. He's unproven, but he can. Let's see what he can do. So I think that there's some things to look forward to. Even if things look bleak and lost, I think there's still some talent on that team.
Right. Well, Ed, I want to thank you for joining me. Here, just right before we get out of here, I got to throw this out because that top 10 list I gave you, that was before I had this information right here in my hand, and I knew this happened yesterday. But the Packers give Jordan Love a 4-year, $220 million extension, making him the highest paid quarterback in league history. That's going to be until next year. But, like I said, that thing we talked about, that C word, continuity. You look at the Packers. In our time frame in really watching football, we've known the Packers to only have what? In the last 20-something years, 2 quarterbacks, and now they're working on another extension, which would be a 3rd quarterback. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now the Jordan Love experience is about to take place. Think about that. They've had quarterbacks in place as long as the Pittsburgh Steelers have had coaches in place. And you look at a team like Miami, who finally did the right thing and paid Tua, They've had 25 quarterbacks in the time frame that Green Bay has had the quarterbacks that they've had. Continuity means everything.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Denver and Washington have gone through a number of quarterbacks too. So let's see if Dallas. Again, I think that's the best option is to re-sign Dak Prescott. We'll see what they do.
Absolutely. Well, buddy, I want to thank you for jumping on the train ride again. I'm glad that the ride didn't scare you.
Not at all.
Even though I don't have a license, like I say, we're going to have to get you checked out to see what makes you get on a train ride with the guy that does not have a license to operate a train. But once again, I do thank you for joining me once again. It's always a pleasure. We might need to do this on a weekly basis and just make it the Anthony and Ed show. I could always create another podcast. We could have our own separate podcast. But like I say, it's always a pleasure to have you on here. So enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I got another guest coming up. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, my guest on the A-Train Sports Talk podcast, none other than Ed Nunez. Give it up for him. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it, man. Have a good day. Take care.
Welcome into the A-Train Sports Talk podcast. I tell you, sometimes technology can be your best friend or your worst enemy. But we'll talk about that later. I am related because I've had this guy already and had to redo it. But it's always worth it. So, the young man I'm about to introduce to you really needs no introduction because he has introduced himself on the gridiron and in the classroom as well. He is the quarterback of the 3A state champions. And when they step on the field for the first time this year, not only will they be the 3A state champions, they will be the 3A defending state champions in football. He plays at Cheney High School. He will be part of the class of 25. He's a quarterback, stands 6 foot tall, 180 pounds. Here's the impressive part. Besides all the accomplishments on the football field, a 4.0 GPA. That's called grade point average. For those of you listening, 30 on the ACT. His numbers from last year are astronomical. I mean, what more can you say? 2,625 yards. I know some NFL quarterbacks that didn't put up numbers like that. 37 TDs. That's on a Tom Brady plateau. 182 for 262 for 69% accuracy. And don't let the arm strength fool you. He can also run the ball if need be. 234 yards rushing, 6 rushing TDs, state champion, 13-0, first team all-league quarterback, 3A Offensive Player of the Year finalist, and small classes non-senior Offensive Player of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the A-Train Sports Talk podcast. Quarterback Josh Burdick. Josh, how you doing?
Good, how are you? Thank you.
Man, it seemed like we did this not too long ago, but sometimes they say second time around it gets better. So we read off all your accomplishments, and I think I know the answer to this next question because I've asked it of some of your teammates. And when did you know that the season last year was going to be a special season? When did it all start? When did it all click in for you?
Just that summer leading up to the season. Just in the weight room, you could feel that it was going to be a special year, just with how much everyone wanted it, how hard we were working. The thing about that team is everyone loved each other, and it's a very unselfish team, probably the most unselfish team I've ever been a part of. No one cared who got the credit; they just cared that that Cheney won. That was the most important thing. It's not the name on our back, but the name on the front of the jersey. That's kind of what led to our success last year.
Absolutely. And, looking over last season, and like you said, it all started during the summer. That's been the general thing. It starts in the summer. It starts with conditioning. It starts with workouts. Uh, but one of your teammates said it like this too, and that's why I appreciate the Cheney community because you young men, I know y'all come from good parents. Y'all got good coaching staff. Y'all got a good support system. But the main thing that got my attention was that you guys are not afraid to share y'all's faith. How much did y'all's faith also play a part in the season as well, too?
Yeah, like I said, we're playing for something greater than ourselves. Um, we just know that our purpose is not to play football, but to make disciples of God, and we're just trying to use football as an opportunity to do that. And I think when you're playing for something bigger than yourself, amazing things can happen.
Absolutely. Uh, so last year's preparation was to go in, and y'all had y'all's focus on state championship. However, in order to get to that point, there was a team in particular, and I know there was more than that team on y'all's schedule, but there was a team in particular that y'all had to go through. In the words of a famous retired wrestler, their theme may as well have been to be the man, you have to beat the man. However, y'all were like pretty much like David going up against Goliath. And not only did y'all knock this team off once, but y'all knocked them off twice. That was that giant known as Andel, riding a 50-something plus game winning streak. Y'all ended the streak. I think they won like 3 or 4 straight state titles. Y'all ended that streak. And I want to ask you this question as well too, because there were 2 streaks that were ended in football. Y'all knocked off Andale. In basketball, uh, May South girls team knocked off St. Thomas Aquinas, which had won 7 straight titles. I want your honest opinion. Which streak was the most important that ended? You could be biased or unbiased. You could be fair or unfair. I know I'm thinking you're probably going to say Cheney knocking off Andale twice. But, I mean, those are 2 astronomical feats. And you guys are part of history. So, in your opinion, which one do you think was the most important streak to knock off?
I don't know, 7 straight state championships sounds pretty hard to beat. I mean, they might have got us there.
I say they might have got y'all on the number, but then when you look at the physicality, football is a more brutal sport. I'm a be fair and say I think they're both of equal importance when you look at the Kansas record books because in any other state, what school is winning 4 straight championships in football? In any
Yeah.
state, in any classification. So, yeah, I think both streaks are just as equally important. But you guys go in with the preparation mindset. We want to win a state championship. Now you fast forward when you guys step out on the football field for the first time this year as defending champions. Y'all go from being the hunter to being hunted, knowing also that some teams that probably won't even make the playoffs, you guys are their playoffs and their state championship. So what is the mindset now going in as opposed to the mindset last year going in?
Yeah, just you got to work that much harder and prepare each week because you know that we're probably going to have a target on our backs. But I mean, that doesn't really change the mindset of we're back at the bottom this year. What happened last year doesn't really mean anything. We're on the same footing as every other team, and we have to earn our way back if we want to get there.
Absolutely. So I've heard from some of your teammates that you guys have a good plethora of players coming back. Y'all have returning starters at key skill positions. Offensive line is intact. So, do you see Cheney possibly becoming a dynasty? And what is the depth chart looking like? I mean, because I know after this year, now I don't want to jump the gun, but I know after this year you have to look at, okay, what is the groundwork that is laid? Did we leave a good solid foundation for the team coming behind us? But could a dynasty be in the making at Cheney on the, let's just say, on par with what Andale just accomplished that you guys knocked off?
I mean, you obviously want to leave the program better than you found it, but yeah, I think there's a lot of young guys that are kind of seeing like what it takes to be successful and are working really hard. So I think that a few years down the road, I think there could be some pretty good Cheney football teams just based off of how hard our kids work and how well our coaches develop the players.
All right. Well, my last question I'm going to lead you with, well, it's not my last question. It'll be one of the last questions because one of the things that caught my attention was the stats that you put up. College offers. How many offers have you gotten? Do you plan on, you think that after this year the floodgates may open up, let's say if you put those same type of numbers, because let's just face it, numbers don't lie. Something tells me that you're putting in the work. So how many offers do you have and how many offers do you expect to get, say, after another successful season and hoisting another trophy?
Right now, I just have one. You hope that as the season progresses, more opportunities will come, but that's not really what my focus is. I'm just kind of focused on winning games each week and focusing on our team and our goals. And personal goals will come after that.
All right. Well, I have to ask this question right here. 4.0 grade point average. That's amazing. Because a lot of people don't look at football players, well, maybe outside the quarterback position, but a lot of people look at football players as, a bunch of guys going around banging on each other, beating each other up. They don't look at football players as being these bright students in the classroom. So the 4.0 grade point average and the 30 on the ACT, that really got my attention. Now, as me being a 57-year-old man, I would be expected to jump on the importance of education bandwagon. But you are a young man. First of all, I want to know how you maintain that grade point average with all the summer workouts, with the games being played, with the practices after school. And what's the importance of maintaining a good grade point average, and what's the importance of value in education?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I feel like I'm pretty blessed with a certain level of just natural. I've done pretty well in school my whole life, and then I would just say that it just takes a certain amount of dedication, and sometimes you have to sacrifice things because those grades that they don't seem very important, but as you try to get recruited, that could be the difference between you and another kid getting an opportunity. Is if they know you're going to get it done in the classroom, they might pick you over that other kid. And I think that if you can handle business in the classroom, then you can handle business on the field. It just translates. It's just like one little task you have to get done. You do that right, you start to do all the other little things right, and eventually you'll just see more and more success coming your way.
All right. Well, y'all heard it from Josh Burdick, quarterback of the Cheney Cardinals, the defending state champion Cheney Cardinals. Education is everything because at some time the ball is going to start bouncing and the passes won't be thrown. Well, Josh, I want to thank you for letting me take up some moments of your time that you probably won't be able to get back, but it was well worth it. I want to wish you and the Cheney Cardinals the best of luck on y'all's journey to repeat as state champions, because I actually feel that you guys can actually do it. And I also want to say, look for me in the stands because I will be at one of the games, if not two of the games. And, this last question, if there's a game that you would want me to come to, which game would it be?
Oh boy, I think we'll have a couple of pretty good games. Our first game against Holcomb, they have two really good offensive linemen, I know. And then I think about week 4, we play Hoisington. They were the 2A state runner-up this year. And then week 7, we got Wichita Collegiate, which they're always good. But just got to take each game, treat each week the same. Put your best performance on the field. You got to play our best football every week.
All right. Well, I look forward to it. And like I say, once again, good luck on the season. God's blessings. And we'll have to do this again. All right. Thank you once again for being on the show. Once again, all right. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, my guest from the Cheney Cardinals, none other than Josh Burdick, quarterback. Glad to have that young man on. As you can tell, he's a bright young man, not only on the field, but also in the classroom where it counts the most. With that being said, I am going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to put a wrap on everything. So don't you go nowhere. The train is still building up ahead of steam. Thanks to both of my guests, Ed Nunez out of New Mexico and Josh Burdick, quarterback, Cheney Cardinals. Be right back. Welcome back to the A Train Sports Talk Podcast. This is your host, your conductor of the state's #1 podcast that give student athletes a voice. And as you can tell, I don't have no problem that these young people also express their faith in God. I have no problem doing that. I know some media personnel, they kind of turn away from that and they don't want talk like that getting out, but I would like to say that's what makes mine unique. Everybody don't believe the same. Everybody don't share the same faith. I understand that. But this is my show, and anytime a young person wants to express their faith, they have all rights and privileges to do that. And after all, this is still America, home of the free, land of the free, home of the brave, and we still have our religious freedoms, even on the sports talk show. But I want to wrap things up here. Let you know of some changes that will be taken on in high school football as it relates to state playoffs. This has been out a while, but I'm going to go ahead and share it because some of you have probably forgotten about it. But Keisha has announced new sites for state football and changes for state basketball. This here was published on June the 13th. Changes are on the way for Keisha state title games. As previously announced, state football championships in 2024 will be changing its location for each site to be able to host multiple classifications title games. This afternoon, in a press release, the Kansas State High School Activities Association, as we call it, Keisha, released locations of the championship games. Emporia State University, the former host of the Class 6A championship, Emporia State will continue to serve as a championship site for classes 6A, 5A, and 4A. Class 6A will see its championship game take on a Friday, November 29th at 2 p.m. Saturday, November 30th, we'll have Classes 4A championship at 1 p.m., followed by Class 5A at 7 p.m. Now, here's where I think this could actually be tweaked a little bit. I think your feature game ought to be the 6A game, and that's not diminishing Class 4A and 5A, none whatsoever. But if it was me, the way I would have did it, and this is just me personally, and you can chime in and leave your comments and let me know what you think about this. But I think 4A should have been played that Friday at the 2 p.m. slot. That's the Friday right after Thanksgiving. And then on the Saturday slot for November 3rd, you play the 5A game at 1 p.m. and you play the 6A game at 7 p.m. But that's just my opinion. I'm pretty sure everybody have varying opinions and different ideas how they would like to see this. But at least these are some changes being made to where you're trying to get everything pretty much at one site. Hutchinson Community College will also continue its responsibilities of hosting state football championships as it previously had hosted Class 3A. This coming year, it will see Class 3A, 2A, 1A. And here's how this is going to work out. The action will kick off Friday night under lights with Class 2A's championship game beginning at 6 p.m. November the 29th. Saturday will begin with Class 3A at noon on November 30th and Class 1A at 5 p.m., which I would probably switch that around as well, too. I would play the 1A game on Thursday at 6 p.m., and then I would play the 2A game on that Saturday at noon or 1 o'clock for that reason, and play the 3A game, the feature game, the higher class. What I'm saying is, my opinion is the higher class game should always be the feature game. And as they have it slotted for 5 p.m. So that's how I would do that. But at least they're trying to get all these games at one site, as close to one site as they could. To which now, when you look back over it, I think it would be nice, and maybe and I'm gonna try to get him on here. I'm gonna work on getting Kevin Saul on here. I've had him on before. He's a very humble man, down to earth. But with them renovating, as we knew, at Cessna Stadium, and they already have the general idea of how many seats the stadium is gonna hold once they get through with the refurbishing of the stadium. I'm gonna ask him this question right here. Have you thought about maybe at least making it a 13,000 seat venue, or where you can add extra seats and maybe host state championship football? Because at one time, Cessna Stadium was home to state championship football. And it was a sight to see. Just like if you saw the track and field tournament this past year, it was a sight to look up and see the west side during their packed capacity. So, yes, that would be one of the questions I would ask Kevin Saul. And if not, maybe they can use Riverfront Stadium as a site. I'm not trying to take away from these other places, but a metropolitan city like Wichita needs to be doing something as far as putting high school football even more so on the map. That's just my opinion. Let me finish this out. Kiowa County High School. Greensburg will now be a new host site for state football. Kiowa County High School is home to the only 8-man turf football field in the state of Kansas. It will host 8-man Division I, 8-man Division II, and 6-man state championships. All 3 games will take place on Saturday, November 30. 8-man Division II will begin at 11 a.m. 6-man will begin at 3 p.m. and 8-man Division II will kick off at 7 p.m. And you know I have to get my guy out there in Oswego, Matt Fowler, on to get his opinion on this, because I'm pretty sure he will have something to say about it. Then also in a press release, Keisha not only announced football changes, but also big changes coming to the layout of the state tournament in boys and girls basketball. Beginning in March of 2026, state basketball will be moving from 6 total sites down to 4. No locations or dates have been released at this time. In the press release, Keisha states, the schedule and other event details, including classification designations for each site and venue selection, will be determined and announced following the 2024-25 basketball season. So there you have, changes are coming. If y'all didn't hear it on a radio station, y'all heard it now on my podcast. So look forward to these changes. Look forward to making your travel plans during state football championship week. I'm pretty sure those towns that's going to be hosting these games, I'm pretty sure they will be looking forward to the influx of visitors coming to their town and trying to accommodate best they can. Well, anyway, I have enjoyed my Saturday afternoon bringing you the best in sports content, having the best guest. As I always say, I do have the number one podcast in the state of Kansas because of the fact that I give young student athletes a voice. Well, once again, hope you have enjoyed today's show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Once again, my guest, Ed Nunez. And Josh Burdick. Thank those two guys. That's what makes my show number one, is my guest. This has been a great time today. Until the next time, take care of yourself and each other. God bless. I'm out. Enjoy your Saturday afternoon.